of the Earth, and by the end of this video, I'd like you to be able to explain what the tilt of the Earth and how it affects our view of the Sun. Okay, so first things first, before we talk about what the tilt of the Earth is, you first need to understand what an axis is. Okay, here is an axis over here. Sounds like the word axle, and it's pretty similar. They have the same root. The Earth spins around its axis like a ballerina, okay? An axis is the imaginary line around which something spins. So here's a picture of the Earth. It's spinning around. The center point that it's spinning around is the axis. That's what runs straight through it. If this ballerina twirls around on her foot, you can imagine an imaginary line right through the middle here, okay? That is the ballerina's axis. It's the point right in the middle around which everything else spins. If you spin a spinning top, the middle of that top is the axis, okay? We can't put the axis sideways like this because then we'd have to change the spin, so it would spin like that. So if we spun the Earth that way, the axis would have to be through the side, okay? So the axis is around what everything else spins. So for us, the axis is from North Pole to South Pole on the Earth, and the Earth spins around that. Okay, so that's the first thing. You need to understand the axis is the line around which the Earth is spinning. The Earth's axis isn't actually straight up like this. Okay? It doesn't spin like that right around the sun. If the sun's here, it's not straight up and spinning around it. The axis is actually tilted at 23.5 degrees. So that's if the axis was straight up, that's where it would be, but it's actually off at an angle. So the Earth's axis is not straight up, it's actually tilted in one direction. Okay, I know I put a typo there. Well done if you noticed it before me. Okay, so the tilt of the Earth is quite important, okay? The Earth revolves around the sun. You know that. The sun is in the middle, and the Earth goes around the sun like that, okay? However, the Earth does not revolve around the sun in an upright position. That's what I just said. It doesn't go like that. It's actually tilted like this. So if this is the sun, it's tilted like this. So it's tilted away from the sun for half the year. So sometimes it's like this, and the top half is tilted away from the sun, okay? And for the other half of the year, the top half is actually tilted towards the sun. So this top half of the planet actually sees more of the sun on one for half the year, and then it comes around to this side, and the top half of the planet actually sees less of the sun for the second half of the year. All right, important fact for you to know is that the Earth is tilted by 23.5 degrees. Just because you've done degrees, you've done geometry and maths, you should be able to just visualize how much that is. It's not that much. It's not a big angle off upright, but that little difference makes a huge amount of difference to our lives, okay? And we'll get into that when we talk about seasons. So here is, I just quickly want to describe what's going on in this diagram. We've got the sun here, and we got the Earth when it's one side of the sun and the Earth when it's the other side. Here's the North Pole, there's the South Pole. Here's the South Pole, there's the North Pole on this side. And what you can see is one side of the Earth, one half of the Earth is getting more sun than the other half, okay? So if this line down here tells us which halves are getting sun. So this is the half of the Earth that's getting sun, but the northern bit over here, here's the equator that divides in half. That side gets a bit more. Now, this might sound a bit tricky. If you're a bit confused, let me explain. And if I move on from this and you still don't understand, go to me in class and ask me to explain it to you, okay? Because this is a really cool thing, and it's a little tricky to explain like this. But anyway, so the Earth is tilted by 23.5 degrees. This means that one point of the year, the bottom of the Earth is seeing more of the sun than at the top of the Earth is seeing. All right, so what's happening right here is you can see that the Earth is tilted that way. The axis is tilted down. There's the axis, okay? So this bottom part of the Earth is actually showing towards the sun more. So there's the equator. Whoops. There's the equator, and below it, this is all of South Africa, and there's a bit of Antarctica. All of this is getting sun, and this is what we'd call the bottom half of the Earth, all right? So all of that is getting more sun. And the top half, this is where the UK and America and Europe and Asia, all of them are, they're getting less sun, okay? So they're experiencing a lot less sun. But what happens is 6 months later, the Earth has gone halfway around the sun, and then it's facing this way. Now remember, the Earth is tilted like this. So when it's here, the bottom is facing towards it. But when it gets to this side, over there, the top half is facing towards the sun. Now, the Arctic Circle, the US, the UK, all of Asia, they're all experiencing more sunlight during the day. And we down here, we're getting a lot less. Okay, this would be winter now when we have shorter days. We have less sun glaring down at us. Okay, so this is actually what it would, very similar to what it looks like right now for us. Okay, so let me just explain how this affects our view of the sun. So I'm going to read this section here and then I'll explain this picture down here. Because of the tilt of the Earth, we experience different views of the sun. And I said the tilt of the sun, but I meant tilt of the Earth. In 1 year, we will have the sun focusing a lot more energy on us. So let's say at the beginning of the year, we have the sun focusing a lot more energy on us. We have a lot more daylight. It's a lot hotter. What happens is 3 months later, we're going to be getting less energy from the sun. We're not going to have all of that energy directed at us, okay? What's going to happen is 6 months after we had all that energy focused on us, we're going to have the least amount of energy we can get. We're going to have very little energy directed at us. Still enough, okay? But it's the least we're going to get. And then what's going to happen is it's going to start increasing again. So it goes from most to least 6 months later, and then over the next 6 months, it's steadily going to get more and more and more until once again, like we started the year, we're going to have the most heat from the sun. We're going to have the most of the energy. Okay, so what that means is, let's say we start, this is the beginning of our year. We start in January, we have summer. So what's happening is we'll usually find that the sun rises and then goes really high and then sets again, okay? This is summer. We're getting the most daylight, which means we're getting the highest view of the sun. It goes high in our sky and it gives us huge amounts of energy. What happens is 3 months later, we have autumn, okay? We just went through autumn, and autumn comes and the sun doesn't get as high in the sky, so it's slightly lower down. Usually it's up high, then 3 months later it's slightly lower down. In March, April, it's sort of in the middle here, okay? So we're still getting a lot of energy from the sun, but not as much as when it was summer, okay? And so this is April, May, and then it continues to decrease, and it continues to rise lower and lower in the sky. And so what happens in winter, where the sun comes up, and then it doesn't go too high, and then it goes back down. That's why we have such short days, and it's so cold in winter, because we're not getting as much of that sun's energy. And then what happens is, after we pass July now, we're about to have the solstice, which means all of a sudden that every day the sun is going to be a little bit higher in the sky, okay? When that happens, it's eventually going to reach here. When we hit spring in September, it's going to be in the middle. And then by the time we reach December, January, where we started, we're going to have it high and intense again. All right, fantastic, boys. Come chat to me if you have any questions. I hope it's making sense. Have a fantastic day. Cheers.